Mindset Talk No Jutsu, Episode 2, The Blue Lock Mindset. Kill your ego, find your flow. Inspired by Blue Lock, the sneaky villain. You ever feel like you're working hard, doing everything you were taught was right, checking the boxes, showing up, grinding, but somehow still stuck? Like you're moving, but not advancing. Improving, but not arriving. Let me introduce you to the sneakiest villain you will ever face. It's not failure, it's not fear, it's not even rejection. It's ego. Not the loud ego, not arrogance. I'm talking about the quiet ego, the one that needs approval, the one that wants to be liked, the one that performs instead of becoming. See, Blue Lock teaches a radical idea. Sometimes the version of you that you built to survive is the exact version preventing you from evolving. And today, we're talking about killing that version. Not to destroy yourself, but to finally meet yourself. Because some of you listening right now aren't stuck. You're just buried under the versions of you that were built for survival, not purpose. This is the Blue Lock Mindset. Let's enter the training ground.
When life humiliates the ego. Usagi Yoichi walked into Blue Lock believing he was a team first player. Pass first, be liked, play it safe. But Blue Lock forced him to confront a dangerous question. Are you playing to belong, or are you playing to become? And the moment he stopped asking what everyone else needed was the moment his evolution began. There was a time in my life when everything looked solid from the outside. Had the military, financial stability, respect, marriage. If you saw me back then, you probably would have said, this guy's on track. But life has a way of testing the identities we get comfortable hiding inside. 6 years later, bad conduct discharge, divorce, anger that sat in my chest like a storm with nowhere to go, mental battles I didn't even have the language for yet. And just like that, the structure that once held me up disappeared. Now here's where ego enters quietly. Because instead of rebuilding, I started numbing. Drinking turned into routine, smoking turned into escape. The crowd around me wasn't growing, we were just avoiding. You ever notice how easy it is to find people committed to staying stuck? Misery loves synchronized suffering. And before I knew it, the discipline had been replaced with drifting, purpose replaced with survival. I told myself, I'm just going through a phase. But phases don't last years, avoidance does. Then came the night that forced me to face myself. A friend that I had let stay with me burned down my kitchen. And I remember standing there looking at everything I lost, again, not angry, not even shocked really, just empty. And in that silence, a question rose up that changed my life. It said, Keetrick, how many times are you going to restart before you realize you're the common denominator? That wasn't shame, that was an awakening. See, ego hates accountability. Ego wants a villain. But growth begins when the moment you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to teach me? That night, I stopped being a victim of my own story and became responsible for the next chapter. Sometimes life doesn't destroy you. It dismantles the version of you that was never meant to lead. Pain isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's redirection. The Blue Lock environment. I thought I understood the military. I grew up around it. But proximity is not initiation. January 26th, I was just a kid. January 27th, pressure introduced itself. And pressure is a truth serum. Gone were the days of coasting. Gone was the comfort of anonymity. Suddenly, details mattered. Precision mattered. Accountability mattered. I went from playing games to wiring munitions on aircraft. Think about that transition. One season, you're worried about entertainment, and the next season, you're responsible for machinery that demands exactness. No room for ego there, because ego gets people hurt. Training has a way of stripping illusions fast, and that's what Blue Lock represents, an environment engineered to expose you, not punish you, reveal you. Because most people don't actually know who they are until comfort is removed. Let me give you something to sit with. Pressure doesn't build character as much as it reveals it. See, Chigiri learned that the hard way. His speed was always there. Pressure didn't give it to him. It forced him to stop hiding it. And once you see yourself clearly, you can never go back to pretending. So the real question becomes, when pressure shows up in your life, do you shrink or do you sharpen? The performance trap, when acceptance costs you yourself. When I entered corporate, I walked in already negotiating with myself. You ever do that? Tell yourself, let me just adjust a little so I can get ahead. See, a little becomes more, and then more becomes masking, and then masking becomes disappearance. My dreads, they were questioned, tattoos, judged, creative energy, misunderstood. So I adapted, not strategically, but surgically. I cut pieces off myself, hoping acceptance would grow where authenticity once lived. And people rewarded it. Promotions, praise, approval. But every compliment felt like it was landing on a version of me that wasn't real. Let me give you a hard truth. See, Batra almost lost himself trying to sync with everyone else's rhythm until he realized the monster he was chasing was just his original self. If you have to abandon yourself to succeed, that isn't success. That's slow self-erasure. I wasn't climbing, I was compressing. So be careful chasing rooms that only welcome the edited version of you, because one day you'll wake up successful and unfamiliar with the person in the mirror. Fitting in is overrated. Alignment is undefeated. When comparison punches you in the chest, rock bottom can be rocket fuel. After my apartment burned down, those people I drank with every night, gone. Silence has a way of telling you the truth noise lets you avoid. And in that silence, I saw how far I had drifted from the man I could be, how behind I felt, and then comparison crept in. Not the toxic kind, the awakening kind. I thought, if I keep living my life like this, I will build nothing. That realization did two things at once. It planted insecurity and ignited resolve, because I knew something in my bones. If I don't change, nothing will. Pain is often life's way of interrupting the lie you've been telling yourself. So let me reframe something for you. Rock bottom is not where you end, it's where illusions end. Borrow didn't evolve when he was winning. He evolved when he was benched, when his identity collapsed. That's when his hunger sharpened. Because when nothing is left, clarity gets loud. And clarity asked me a question that changed my trajectory. If you don't change, what does your life look like in 5 years? That question scared me more than failure ever could. So I decided, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And from that moment forward, I stopped waiting for rescue and started choosing responsibility. Chasing applause. Recognition is powerful, but it's also dangerously intoxicating because applause can trick you into thinking you've arrived, when really, you just become palatable. And the more I achieved, the more I performed, the more I disappeared into the grind. Here's the trap nobody talks about. It's when your identity becomes tied to being impressive. Sinagi is a genius, but even he had to confront this. Was he playing because he loved the game or because he loved winning easily? See, rest starts to feel illegal. Silence feels threatening. Stillness feels unproductive. Then the job ended, and for the first time in a long time, no one was clapping. And instead of breaking me, it clarified me because I realized something freeing. When you stop needing the room, you finally learn how to lead it. So at the next opportunity, I didn't show up looking like someone that needed approval. I showed up like someone who had something to give. Confidence shifts when validation is no longer your oxygen. The identity collapse. Truth is, for a long time, I didn't know who I was. Everything happened so fast. I graduated, marriage, military, exit. No pause, no integration, just impact after impact. But after that fire, I made a decision. Who I am right now is not who I will be forever. Loneliness became my teacher. Distance from friends, family, forced me inward. And I discovered something powerful. My greatest companion was my own mind. See, Ren trained alone for a reason. Isolation sharpened him. Not because he hated people, but because clarity sometimes requires distance. Because when you spend enough time in your own mind, you meet the truths that noise hides. And what I saw was simple. Who I was not who I wanted to be. Not next year, not someday, now. Growth begins the moment honesty overrides comfort. Emotional armor, the danger of going numb. My emotional armor was simple. I stopped caring. Or at least that's what I told myself. Truth is, I didn't stop feeling. I just buried what I felt so deep that even I couldn't reach it. I even took on the nickname Novocaine because nothing seemed to touch me. No reaction, no emotion, no cracks in the surface. And for a while, that numbness felt like strength. But see, being numb is dangerous because what most people don't realize is this: the same walls that block pain also block joy, connection, love, peace. Numbness doesn't protect your life. And Kunigami learned this when he came back from the wild card. He wasn't softer, he was armored. And armor can win battles, but it struggles to build connection. It actually shrinks it. I thought if I let myself feel everything that had happened, the military collapse, the divorce, losing my direction, starting over again and again and again, I thought it would break me beyond repair. So I armored up. But eventually, I learned something that changed me. Strength is not emotional shutdown. Strength is emotional endurance. It's the ability to feel pressure without letting pressure define you. It's staying open without becoming fragile. It's having a heart without losing your spine. Let me give you a line that I want you to remember. Anyone can harden. Few people learn how to stay soft and still be unshakable. That's emotional backbone. And life will test it if you have it, because pressure is coming for all of us. So the question isn't, will life get heavy? The question is, will you build the inner strength required to carry it? Healing began for me the day I realized that. Avoided pain doesn't disappear, it just waits. It shows up in your reactions, your relationships, your leadership, your self worth. You don't heal by forgetting, you heal by facing, without letting the past become your identity. Now, hear this part clearly. Being emotionally strong does not mean you never struggle. It means you refuse to let the struggle turn you into something you don't respect. These days, I don't run from discomfort. I train for it. Because the strongest men aren't the ones who feel nothing. They're the ones who feel deeply and still stand tall. So let me ask you something. When pressure hits your life, do you shut down, harden, detach, or do you breathe, plant your feet, and remind yourself, I was built for this? Don't aim to be numb. Aim to be unshakable.
Kaizen, discipline that rebuilds you. In Japanese culture, there's a concept called Kaizen. It means continuous improvement. Small steps, daily refinement. Not overnight transformation, but relentless forward motion. And here's the part that nobody romanticizes. Kaizen, it's boring. It's subtle, repetitive, almost unimpressive from the outside. There's no cinematic music playing when you wake up early. No applause when you choose discipline over distraction. No highlight reel when you stay consistent. It just feels steady. But that steadiness, that's where resolve is built. That's where calm in the fire is forged. Because when you practice small discipline long enough, pressure doesn't shake you the same way anymore. You don't panic. You don't spiral. You adjust. And that's the part people miss. Kaizen isn't about intensity, it's about recalibration. Look at Isagi. He didn't wake up one day as the best striker in Blue Lock. After the Team Z versus Team V match, when he realized he didn't have Nagi's natural talent or Baro's dominance, he didn't collapse into insecurity. He studied the field. He replayed the match in his mind. He dissected his positioning. That's when he started developing spatial awareness, not as a dramatic awakening, but as a calculated upgrade. Every match, he added something: a sharper read, a quicker decision, a better angle to hit a blind spot. Even when Ren outclassed him, he didn't quit. He recalculated. He rebuilt his formula. That's Kaizen. Self awareness turned into strategy. And in real life, it looks like this: you refining your morning routine instead of reinventing your personality. You correcting your tone in conversations instead of trying to control how people see you. You improving your craft privately instead of announcing your goals publicly. No spotlight, no drama, just alignment. Because here's the truth: progress rarely feels dramatic. It feels subtle, repetitive, almost boring. But in that repetition, you become steady where others break. And the payoff? It's not excitement, it's stability. Flow state, where your soul breathes. You want to know when I feel most alive? It's not when I'm winning, not when I'm being applauded, not when I'm receiving something. when I'm helping someone else connect the dots. When I see that look in someone's eyes, that shift, when confusion turns into clarity, because I struggled, and I don't mean struggled in theory, I mean rebuilding from scratch, failing publicly, sitting in rooms where I felt behind, starting over when I didn't want to. I read, I learned, I tried, I failed, I adjusted. Then I did it again. And somewhere in all of that, I started noticing patterns, patterns in pain, patterns in growth, patterns in why people stay stuck. So when I help someone move past a barrier, when I help them see that thing they thought was a flaw is actually a weapon waiting to be sharpened, when I help them rewrite the meaning of their story, I don't just feel useful, I feel aligned. There's a difference. Useful feels like performance, aligned feels like breathing. That's the space Isagi enters when the feel slows down. When he's not forcing the play, he's reading it, responding, becoming a part of it. And that's flow. Flow isn't hype. It's not adrenaline. It's not noise. It's when time disappears because you're operating in the space where you were designed to operate in. That's why it feels different. It's not draining. It actually restores you. Pay attention to where you feel that. Not what impresses people, not what pays the quickest, not what gets the loudest reaction. Where do you lose track of time? Where does effort feel natural? Where does helping feel energizing instead of exhausting? That's not random. That's direction. That's your signal. And if you ignore it long enough, you always feel slightly out of place. But if you follow it, you stop chasing rooms and you start building them. Becoming unignorable. My whole life, people told me, you got a voice people want to listen to. You should be on the radio. And every time that they said it, I laughed it off. I changed the subject. I made a joke of it. Because sometimes when people see something in you, it scares you more than it excites you. So I ran from it. Not dramatically, not obviously, strategically. I stayed busy. I chased promotions, focused on stability. I told myself, I'll circle back to it one day. Really just fear disguised as logic. It's not practical. It's not guaranteed. That's for other people. Let me just lock in this next job first. But every job I locked in eventually unlocked me. My titles disappeared, security vanished, applause faded, and I kept ending up back at the same question. Who are you when the room no longer needs you? After my most recent job ended, I didn't panic the way that I used to. I got quiet. And in that quiet, I realized something. The only way to build a life that cannot be taken from me is to create something that belongs to me. Not rented validation, not borrowed identity, ownership. Because jobs can end, positions can shift, rooms can replace you, but your voice, your story, your perspective, no one can take that from you. And I started noticing something. The people who become undeniable in any arena, they don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. They don't shrink their presence to fit the room. They expand the room to fit their presence. That's when I thought about Kaiser. Kaiser doesn't wait for the game to spotlight him. He commands space, not because he's loud, but because he knows his value. That's the shift, not arrogance, alignment. So, this microphone, this message, this platform, this is me choosing sovereignty over safety. This is me betting on a thing I avoided for so many years. This is me becoming unignorable, not because I'm loud, but because I'm finally aligned. I'm not asking for permission anymore. I'm not waiting for a room to introduce me. I built my own. And if you've been running from your call, let me tell you something. The longer you avoid it, the louder it gets. Until one day, you either answer it or you resent yourself for not trying. Ego death equals identity birth. The man I am today would terrify the younger version of me because he's disciplined, clear minded, 5 years removed from weed, intentional with alcohol, happily married after I swore I'd never do it again, preparing to become a father, and building something that belongs to him. He doesn't react the way that I used to. He doesn't chase chaos and he doesn't confuse attention for respect. He chooses long term over loud and peace over pride, structure over self sabotage. But what would scare my younger self most is this: I no longer see myself as a victim of my past. I see myself as the author of what comes next. And if I'm being real with you, strength doesn't mean that the doubt disappears. There's still a voice in my head that questions me, still moments where I wonder if I'm enough, still flashes of the old identity trying to remind me of who I used to be. But here's the difference now. I do not negotiate with that voice. I don't debate it. I don't wrestle it. I don't let it sit at the head of the table. I outgrow it. Because growth isn't silence and insecurity. It's refusing to let it lead. That's the difference between surviving Blue Lock and becoming its weapon. Ego dies, identity sharpens. In Blue Lock, the players who cling to who they once were, they get eliminated. The ones who evolve and let parts of themselves die, not their confidence, but their excuses. Not their ambition, their limitations. Let this land. Your past explains you. It does not get to authorize your future. And the moment you stop asking it for permission is the moment your real identity begins. Talk No Jutsu Challenge. Outgrow yourself. All right? This is where we train. You heard me say it. The man I am today would terrify the younger version of me. Not because I'm louder, not because I'm richer, not because I'm more impressive, but because I'm learning and practicing accountability by being disciplined, clear, and intentional. So this week, that's the challenge. Your mission. For one decision this week, ask yourself, what would the older, stronger, more disciplined version of me do here? Then do that. Even if it's inconvenient, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it bruises your pride. Because evolution, it isn't glamorous, it's confrontational. If the old you would avoid the conversation, have it. If the old you would procrastinate, get started. If the old you would numb out, sit with it. If the old you would react, let's regulate. And afterward, write this down. Today, I chose the version of me I'm becoming. If you share it, tag it, #Mindset Talk No Jutsu. Let's build a room full of people who are brave enough to outgrow their former selves. Ego protects who you were. Discipline builds who you are becoming. And I'll see you back in the dojo, episode 3. Thanks for coming through.